Hello, and thank you for participating in this survey for data inventory mapping conducted for Point Loma by Jordan Lawrence. You are one of nearly 100 employees participating in this comprehensive survey to help Point Loma get a better picture of what data we collect, how it is being used, how long it is retained, where it is stored, and how it is transferred. You have been selected by your manager, vice president, or associate vice president to participate in this survey because of your specific knowledge in your functional area with this data. This survey should represent not only your interaction with the data, but that of your department as well. If you are unaware of the scope for which you should be participating in the survey, please review the attachment from George Latter, and this should give better clarity. Or email datainventoryproject@pointloma.edu, and Corey or George will respond to you. Please note that academic areas should consider all faculty's use of data in their department as well, including but not limited to grades, grants, teaching materials, university-sponsored trips, surveys, etc. As noted, this is a very comprehensive survey. We expect it to take 2 to 4 hours per participant. You do not need to take the full survey at one time. You may go back and go to it multiple times to collect more information. While this is a very large time commitment, it is important that every selected participant completes this survey so that we can fully understand where data is used within the university and both protect university constituent information and stay in legal compliance. We are relying heavily on your participation and support in this important initiative. If you are unable to complete this survey, please let Corey or George know as soon as possible so that we can find an alternate person in your area of responsibility to complete it. The data gathered from the assessments will be compiled and compared against benchmarks and industry standards. Reporting will be provided to senior management. I want to take a moment to briefly introduce you to the survey. While it is not difficult, it is very thorough. There may be some unfamiliar terms. If you ever need clarification, please click the Need Help link at the top of the survey. It is on every page. If you are unable to find the answer to the questions in the Need Help section, email Data Inventory Project and somebody will respond to you with an answer to your question. The first time you click the survey, it may ask you for your name and email. Once you have logged in, the overview page relates to policies and practices in your designated area. It asks questions about policies, training, security awareness, retention, and disposal of information. Once you have completed this information, click the Next Page button at the bottom of the page to go to the following section. The Process Activity Selection page should contain a list of processing activities usually associated to your department or area of responsibility. A processing activity is a business process or set of activities your department might do to collect information. For example, admissions processes rejection and acceptance of prospect students, or academic affairs may have workflow for academic integrity violations. Please check the box next to every applicable processing activity. The next page will have a long set of questions for which you must answer for every processing activity, but please do not let this dissuade you from selecting the appropriate amount of boxes from the processing activities. In this example, I will select HR benefits enrollment and changes, then click the next page. For each of the processing activities you select, you will need to fill out the Processing Activity Profiling page for that activity. The activity profiling asks questions related to the type of data collected, broken down by categories such as personal data types, employment data, personal financial data, sensitive personal data, demographic data, genetic information, biometric data, and protected health information. For benefits enrollment, I will select birth date, email address, social security number, and physical address and family info. Since there is not additional employment data, personal financial data, or sensitive personal information, I will select none in these areas. And in demographic data, I will select age, selecting none for the other categories. Once this section is complete, you will select where the data is transferred from and to, and how the data moves. Select Choose to select the origination and sharing countries. In most cases, this will be the United States. Start typing United, and you can see the selection from the list. If multiple countries are involved, select all of the applicable countries. You will do the same for sharing. In some cases, it may be countries outside of the United States. Please consider each relevant situation. Finally, list how data is transferred. The Access section lists who has access to the data, how they collect the data for processing, the applications used for processing data, and any third-party access, if applicable. Third-party access is outside vendors that process data on behalf of Point Loma. Select who has access to data. In this case, authorized employees in HR have access to the data. Select how the data is collected. Benefits enrollment data is collected through a web application. Next, we will select any applications that help collect this data or process the data. We have pre-populated this list with common applications within Point Loma. However, if your application is not listed, you can click Add Application and click the Add button. In this case, I will select Workday. Finally, select Third-Party Access. This list has not been pre-populated, so if any outside contractors or vendors process data on Point Loma's behalf, click Add Third-Party Vendor and list their name. If you have listed a vendor on a previous section, it will be listed down below. The Purpose section addresses why we collect the data. Select the appropriate purpose and legal basis for collecting the information. If you do not know, please select that option. If the purpose is not listed, you may select Other and type in the purpose. Or, for legal basis, you may select Not Applicable if this area is not applicable to that processing activity. I'm going to select Administering Benefits and Not Applicable. The Data Subject section addresses the constituents for whom we collect data. Note that this section is rather granular. Instead of just listing parents, it is broken down to parents of current students and parents of past students or alumni. Instead of just listing students, we list current students, past students that are not alumni, or alumni. In this case, for HR benefits, I will select Employees Current. The following question has to do with residency in the European Economic Area. If you do not know the list of countries impacted for this, you may click the Help button at the top. This will bring you to the FAQ section for filling out the guide. There is a link to a PDF at the bottom, which has a list of European Union countries. If there are residents of the European Union amongst your population for that processing activity, please select Yes. Next, you will select whether or not the constituent has provided consent for collection of the data. And finally, select what type of notice was provided to the data subjects, if any. The following section has to do with technical safeguards. This has to do with what measures Point Loma takes to protect data. Data encryption, data masking, or limiting employee access to data are common options. If you don't know, you can select Don't Know or Other to fill in another option. In this case, we use data encryption and limiting access to data. The record type section addresses the type of records associated with this activity. You can look through the list or search. Please note that the list is pruned to show you the relevant data types associated with your area. However, if you are not seeing the results you expect when you type in the search, you can check the box to say Show All. In this case, I will select Benefit Pension Plan, Benefit Enrollment, and Benefit Plan Administration. The Corporate Data Type section deals with corporate data that might be stored and processed for activity. Review this list carefully and make the appropriate selections. In this case, no corporate data is used for benefits enrollment, so I will select None for each area. Finally, Data Classification is the last section. Public means that it's publicly available information, but still used for this processing activity. Confidential regulated data means that it is information not available to the public and controlled by government or other regulations. While confidential non-regulated data is sensitive confidential information, but not controlled by government regulation. In this case, I will select Confidential Regulated Data. You have probably selected more than one processing activity. If this is the case, you will fill out this same form for each activity when you click the Next Page button. Once you've completed all the processing activity profiling, you will fill out the record type selection page. Similar to the processing activity selection, you will fill out the various record types that your department or areas of responsibility work with. If you do not see the record type listed, you may add it by clicking Add New Record at the top of the page. Remember, you are taking this on behalf of your entire department, not just yourself. Consult with others in your department as necessary. In this case, I'm going to select Billing Statement Adjustments and Change of Course Records. Then click Next. This page is much shorter than the Processing Activity Profiling, but still must be filled out for every record type. Don't despair, you are nearing the end of the survey. The Media and Storage selection addresses how we save email versions of this record type, if applicable. In this case, I'm going to select Personal Laptop or Tablet and Network Department Shares. The Paper Record Types records where we store paper records, if applicable. Next, select the appropriate locations for the electronic storage. Note that this is a separate question from the previous one about electronic storage of records emailed to you, even if it is stored in the same location. Select the specific shared drive locations you store this in. In this case, I might select the H drive or network shared drive. The retention section denotes how long we store the data and if there are any triggers to remove the data at a future time. Fill out this section as appropriate. In this case, we're storing official versions. We store the records permanently. We don't have a trigger to delete the data. The current retention period is permanent, and we're not aware of any regulation. We will click Next and repeat this process for all of the record types selected. Once you've completed this for all record types, you will come to the final review. A Submit button will appear once you've completed all the sections. If you do not see a Submit button on the Overview page, please go back and ensure you have completed all appropriate sections, then return to the final review screen. Thank you again for your participation in this important survey. If you have any questions, please email datainventoryproject@pointloma.edu.